Not one, not two, but three all-new SUVs have arrived in India over the last 8 months, all of them looking to conquer the sub-20 lakh rupee SUV market. Each of these is a heavy hitter, and things would be rather easy for them if it wasn't for one seemingly unshakable titan standing in their path.
This car has symbolized success not just for the company that makes it, but every single Indian who has bought one over the last 10 years. Since 2015, the Hyundai Creta has been the go-to vehicle in the compact SUV space, and for good reason, because every single iteration of this SUV has been as reliable as Virat Kohli in a run chase during an ODI. But times change, segments evolve, and there are new sharks in the water.
And these sharks are all smelling blood. The new Kia Seltos, the Renault Duster, and the Tata Sierra are all here to change the game. And today on Car and Bike, we're trying to figure out which one of these four SUVs is the one to pick in 2026.
This is not going to be easy. But before we jump into the cars, before we tell you which is the SUV to go for, make sure you subscribe to Car and Bike, because we're bringing you the latest comparisons, the latest news from the automotive space. And remember to hit the bell icon as well. A barrage of new names have entered the game in the last 6 months. It started with the Sierra, which arrived in November last year. Hot on its heels was the second generation Kia Seltos, followed by the reborn Renault Duster. But this is the king, standing in their way, even if this generation of the SUV is approaching the end of its life cycle.
Now, for the longest time, the Creta has been the perfect description of a compact SUV in terms of dimensions, the length, the wheelbase, the ground clearance, as well as the wheel size. But just look at how things have changed only in the last 6 months. Here's the Seltos, grown much bigger in this new generation, is the longest as well now in this particular segment. Come to the Duster, the ground clearance is the highest in the segment right now. So there again, a big improvement in the segment. And finally, the Sierra, it's got the longest wheelbase in the segment now. It's also the widest as well as tallest. And don't forget, the only one in the segment with massive 19-inch wheels.
This is the Instagram star of this lot. It's so popular on social media, but to me, the rear glass area is merely an optical illusion and doesn't really give you the same feeling as the original Sierra. And a lot of people have grown to not like certain traits of the Sierra's design. But what do you think of it? Let me know in the comments. The Duster is handsome, conventionally handsome. And what I like is that Renault has stood true to the roots of the Duster. It still looks muscular, even though in this company, it does look quite compact. It looks like it is the smallest SUV present here. The Seltos has the most polarizing face of all four SUVs. I know a lot of you still haven't grown to like it, but the design of the new Seltos has grown on me over time. Once you see it in the flesh, once you see the presence that it has on the road, you will start to like it more. And some of the paint schemes on offer are also really attractive. And finally, coming to the Creta is still a handsome looking SUV, especially in this N-line trim. And I think it has aged really well, but you can tell that this design was originally conceived in 2020. But which one do you prefer in terms of looks? Let us know in the comments. The Seltos is the only one here with some exclusive features worth mentioning. These include flush door handles that pop out when you walk up to the car, and an auto dip function for the driver's side mirror when you engage reverse. The Sierra gets a unique feature of its own in the form of cornering fog lights, but its flush door handles lack proximity sensors. The Duster has functional roof rails, which aids practicality for those who intend to use them. But more than the outside, the real story lies inside these cars.
And we begin with the segment bestseller, the Hyundai Creta. Now, what the brands are offering now, Hyundai has been offering for a very long time. The cabins have always been rich and loaded with features. So in the top variants, the Creta or the Creta N-Line gets stuff like seat ventilation, a wireless charger, a premium Bose sound system, twin screens with a curved display, a lot of connectivity features, as well as a panoramic sunroof. So here, the cabin has always been loaded, Amaan.
Shams, you know what I really like about the Creta's interior is that even though we've seen this quite a lot of times now, we are familiar with everything, it doesn't necessarily feel dated or worse for that reason, because it's still a really functional cabin. I love all the little touches present inside. This little shelf here is a thoughtful touch. You know, we tend to keep odds and ends here and there, but you have a shelf here to place these things. The glove box is large and can accommodate quite a bit of stuff. If you get rid of even all the N-line trim, I think this still looks like a reasonably well-appointed, well-put-together interior. And I like all the physical switches that Hyundai has added on the center console. I think this is a really important touch.
Yes.
Even though some of the knobs don't feel quite as good to use and some of the materials that are used could be plusher.
The Creta's cabin is simultaneously functional as it is feature-rich, which is a big reason for this SUV's continued success. The next generation Creta is on the horizon though, and is likely to be even more loaded when it comes to tech and features.
But there are other SUVs that are promising to move the game forward, so maybe let's head in there and check those out.
Let's do that.
Jump inside the Sierra from the Creta and you feel like you've entered an SUV from a much higher segment because this is a much bigger cabin to be seated in. And the Sierra wants to wow you at the outset with the features, doesn't it, Shams?
Absolutely. I just love being here. Too much space, good materials used, good look as well. Not so sure about the light theme here in our conditions, but otherwise feels quite plush. The space I'm getting here is also quite impressive. This special thigh support extender also is something that is suiting me and looking at my height. And of course, my own screen as a passenger. It's only a car in the segment that gets it.
But the problem with that, and I've pointed this out before, is that the passenger side display is visible to the driver at all times. Even while driving, the driver can choose to, of course, glare over at that screen and watch perhaps a video or a movie that's running there. The other thing is, when you get inside and start touching some of the materials, you realize that durability may be a concern over a longer period of time. The door pad on this car, on the driver's side, does have a couple of loose panels, and the light colored upholstery that Shams spoke about has already started to look a little discolored. So if you're among those who are not able to take great care of their vehicles, then this sort of light upholstery will get soiled rather easily. The other issue, Shams, that we spoke about is the lack of physical buttons inside the Sierra, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I'm not a very big fan of having virtual buttons. I like physical buttons. So yes, as a driver, as a user, I would prefer to have more physical buttons. But you tell us in the comments, what's your take on this? Is it time to go back to more physical buttons in our cabins, or are you okay with this sort of an arrangement?
The IRA connected car suite is probably the best in the Sierra with its number of features as well as ease of use. From Alexa to smartwatch integration, everything works seamlessly. So tech enthusiasts will like the space they are in.
Well, step into the Duster, especially after the Sierra, and you feel like you're back in the compact SUV segment. This cabin does feel compact, Amaan. There's not a lot of space here, and I think not also very ergonomic, as we've seen on other cars before this. What I like is the fact that, of course, you have this dual screen setup and sort of asymmetrical in terms of how they look. And also like the fact that how the screen is tilted towards me to make it a little more practical to use. It also feels quite sporty with this dark theme treading on the dash as well as on the seats in this iconic variant and this carbon fiber finish here as well. So if you have to drive, maybe these things will contribute to you feeling a little more enthusiastic while being on the driver's seat.
Shams is right with that, but there are a few things which I don't particularly like about the Duster's cabin. Number one is the interior quality. This still feels like a Renault built to a certain budget, doesn't it, Shams? It doesn't have that premium feel like you do in some of the other cars present here.
Well, not so much as the other cars from Renault, but yes, to a certain extent, what you're saying is right.
Yeah, even though I do have to say I love the view out of the windshield because the bonnet, the way it's shaped, the muscular look of the bonnet, I feel as the driver, you have a great perspective looking out, and the seats have a good range of adjustment, but it's not the best over here. And these seats too, while they are reasonably comfortable, I feel there are other SUVs present here that do have more comfort on offer.
I've also always liked this unique placement of the audio controls behind the steering wheel in the earlier generation as well as in the current generation. What do you think about them? Let us know in the comments below. And overall also quite a loaded cabin when it comes to features, especially when you compare it to all of the cars placed here.
I love how Renault has integrated Google into the infotainment system. It makes it so much easier to use Android Auto, and it's also reasonably quick, so you won't have room for complaint in that sense. Even though I have to say the driver's display, I feel the layout and the way it displays information is not particularly to my liking. It feels a little unnatural as opposed to what we're used to with regular cars.
The Duster is the only one here that has a powered front passenger seat, while the wireless charger has an integrated magnet which ensures your smartphone isn't tossed about when you're driving hard.
And now we're inside the car, which I believe has the best interior of the lot. We're inside the new Kia Seltos. Chums, what I love about the Seltos is how welcome it makes the driver feel. It has the powered front seats and it has memory function as well. So the moment I get inside the car, it is of course welcoming. But I love the range of adjustment that's present with the driver's seat, because you can have it really high up or really low down depending on your preference. The other thing I love is how reachable or within reach all of the major controls are. The buttons are even bigger than those inside the Creta, and I feel they're quite easy to use. I believe people who live in colder climates will find it easier to use these wearing gloves. And aside from this, I feel like these screens are also really crisp, have all the information that you need at hand. The seats are really large and accommodating. These headrests are quite funky.
Love them.
So what do you make of it?
Love them. I think this is a highlight for me. The headrest that I have, it's very comfortable. Just enhances your experience inside the car, and overall very ergonomic cabin as well. You look at the placement of buttons, for example, the seat ventilation buttons next to the door handle, the wireless charger, the other switches next to the gear lever. So very ergonomic placement of switches, lot of physical switches as well. And you spoke about the screens. I love it. The response, the clarity, the connectivity features, it's all right up there. Once again, the cars from this both Hyundai and Kia brands or the group just hit it out of the park when it comes to the in-cabin experience.
Another good thing about the Seltos is that you don't need to go for the top trims to get access to a lot of vital features. Even the mid-spec HTK variant gets ventilated front seats, a panoramic sunroof and an electronic parking brake.
But there's more to talk about aside from just the interiors, isn't there?
Now boot space becomes extremely critical in a segment like this one. And two of these four SUVs come with electric tailgates. First is the Sierra, where the tailgate takes a bit more time to open when compared to the one on the Duster. Now the Duster also has the biggest boot amongst these four SUVs. We managed to fit in quite a lot of luggage here, and there's still room for some more. Now let's compare this to the smallest boot we have today on offer amongst all these four SUVs.
Numbers can be misleading, because the Creta on paper has the smallest boot in this company. But as you can see, I've been able to fit almost all of the bags that were placed inside the Duster's boot. Of course, I've not been able to fit all of them in. We had 6 bags in total in the Duster. Here, I've somehow managed to squeeze in a 5th. But as you can see, it has accommodated all these bags rather comfortably. And the most important thing is that the Creta does not have a loading lip like the Duster does, which makes it easier to load in heavier bags like the one at the bottom. Now let's take a quick look at what it's like in the new Seltos.
The Seltos at 447 litres is only marginally better than the Creta, and the Sierra 2 offers similar numbers. So nothing really separates these two SUVs when it comes to luggage space. All these SUVs come with a lot of powertrain options. While the Creta has 2 petrol engines, 1 diesel engine and an all-electric option, the Seltos shares all of these powertrains except for the EV option. The Sierra once again has 2 petrol engines, 1 diesel and now is also available as an EV, while the Duster has 2 turbo petrol engines with the 1.8 litre strong hybrid on its way. Talking about gearboxes, apart from the manual, you get everything from a CVT to a full-fledged AT to a dual clutch automatic and even an IMT. Our focus in this comparison has been on the top of the line variants with the turbo petrol engine.
Now I've chosen to start with the Duster because this is the most powerful of all these four SUVs we have today. Even though the engine is of the smallest capacity, it's a 1.3 litre turbo engine, but it gives you the maximum power, and it has some strong legacy as well, as it powers some luxury cars from Mercedes-Benz as well. Now within the first few minutes you realize that this car is made for you if you love to drive, because what you get from this setup is an enthusiastic response. This one is mated to a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, and it works really well in combination with this turbo petrol engine. So you hardly feel that you're lacking power in whichever gear you're driving in, and the response is always there. What I also like is with the steering response, you get great feedback on this one, and it is really responsive too. So overall, if you have to spend time on the driver's seat, the Duster is something you will end up liking. You also feel after driving it for a few hours that Renault has done a good job with the suspension on the Duster, because it is able to take on almost all kind of road surfaces. So the road is good, it performs well. If the road gets bumpy and uneven, the suspension is still able to handle those conditions. You also have 3 driving modes here, namely Eco, Comfort and Persona, though I feel that the difference that should be there between them is not very evident. They all feel quite similar, and maybe the Sport mode could have been a little more enthusiastic on this SUV. Now we took these cars to a place called Turbo Track in Gurugram to specifically test the handling characteristics of these SUVs, and that is where the Duster really impressed us with the way it handles and takes corners at high speeds, because despite being an SUV, I think the compact dimensions of this car help, and the roll is restricted quite a bit on this one. So if you love driving and are really enthusiastic about it, this is the car that you should really consider.
So now it's up to me to tell you what the rear seat of the new Duster is like. And let me start off with the space on offer, because for an SUV of this segment, space is a little tight. You will struggle to fit 3 adults abreast in the back seat of the Duster. And even legroom, for someone like me, 5 feet 6 inches tall, I am okay with the amount of legroom. I even have some foot space. I can slide my feet underneath the passenger seat up front. But if you ever end up carrying 3 adults in the rear seat, the middle passenger will be super uncomfortable because of this prominent transmission tunnel hump present in the floor, and the rear AC vents also eat into precious knee room. Talking about ride quality at the back, it's actually really settled. It's calm and composed at the back at all times. Whether you're driving over ruts, bumps or broken surfaces, it stays settled, and you will enjoy long drives in the back seat of the Duster, provided you're traveling with just 4 passengers in the vehicle.
So the Duster clearly falls into the category of driver-oriented cars in this segment, which also includes the likes of the Volkswagen Tiguan and the Skoda Kodiaq. But if your priority is fuel efficiency, wait for the hybrid variant of the Duster, which will hit the roads towards the end of this year.
Now to the Seltos, and this is a setup we all are very familiar with. This 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine with a 7-speed dual clutch has been doing its duty on a lot of cars from the Hyundai Kia group for a long time now, and it does well on the Seltos as well. But this car has now become bigger, the dimensions have changed, it's become longer as well, and has that affected the way this one drives? So I feel that it is still able to carry the weight of the occupants quite well, even though there are only 2 of us sitting in the car right now, but we've tried that with more people as well, and the car responds nicely. You also have paddle shifts with you, which was the case in the Duster as well, and they also contribute in a slightly sportier drive. You can also feel that the difference between drive modes is a little more noticeable when compared to a Duster here in the Seltos. But would I call it a pure driver's car, especially when you compare it to a Duster? Well, maybe not. You don't get as much power here. There's a bigger difference in the torque amount as well. You can also feel that the acceleration is a bit hampered because of the turbo lag, and once that kicks in, you generally feel that there's a sharper response with this setup. So I would say it is tuned more to be in sync with your everyday needs as a driver or as a commuter, and once in a while when you take it out on the highways, it will again not disappoint you. So Kia has tried to strike a balance here in which taking care of all your needs across all 7 days of the week for all the occupants in the car. The steering is a bit on the lighter side, again something that suits the city conditions when you have to change lanes frequently or squeeze your way through traffic. And while the Seltos may not handle as well as a Duster, I think over the generation, the handling capabilities have improved on this SUV, and it is definitely a better, more agile SUV than it was in its previous avatar.
The all-new K3 platform has ensured that the Seltos has now become more forgiving, as we realized while taking tight corners at the track. Given its size, the SUV doesn't exhibit a lot of body roll, and the stiff chassis plays its part here.
I'm surprisingly quite comfortable in the back of the new Seltos. Of course, there's more room back here because with the new generation, you have more rear seat space, and this seat can accommodate 3 adults abreast, which is a welcome addition if you are going to be traveling with family most of the time. The seat squab is pretty long, which means I have great under-thigh support, and the seats are well cushioned as well. The positioning of the headrest means it is actually genuinely usable and comfortable, and the transmission tunnel isn't quite as prominent as it is in the Duster, which means the passenger in the middle will also be quite comfortable. What I didn't see coming is the slightly floaty ride quality at the back. When going over uneven surfaces at a relatively high speed, the car tends to have a lot of lateral movement, and you can feel it sitting in the back seat. Though for the most part, this is a pretty comfortable experience to be in the backseat of the new Seltos.
The Seltos clearly finds the nicest balance between ride and handling, and you can clearly see that Kia is trying to please everybody in the family with this one.
Now another car, another 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine, but this time the story is a little different, or actually quite different, because till now we've sampled DCT gearboxes in both the Duster as well as the Seltos, but with the Sierra, Tata has tried to do things differently, because this one is mated to a 6-speed torque converter, and that means you don't really have to wait for the turbo to kick in as you have to in the SUVs we drove before this, which means this setup automatically becomes a little more suited to your everyday traffic. So when you're driving at speeds between 30, 40 to 60, 70, the gear shifts are much more linear, maybe smoother as well, and that helps you in having a more able car for the city conditions. Though out on the highway you may feel that the response is not as much as you want out of this setup. It is just about adequate. It can be better definitely, and especially when the car is loaded with a lot of passengers, you may feel that the gear shifts are taking a bit longer. But then what comes to your rescue are the paddle shifts. Because of them, you can take much greater control of the vehicle in different speeds. Now I sampled this engine first on the Safari and the Harrier, and here, because the Sierra is a lighter vehicle when compared to the other two, you do feel that it is more suited to the character and the body style of this SUV. It also impresses you with its NVH levels. It is a refined engine and hardly any noise creeps into the cabin, be it the engine itself or other exterior sounds. The big question though is about dynamics, because this is the biggest of the lot that we have here today. So the positive first, well, the view you get from the driver's seat is really commanding. You get an all-round view, be it the front or the rear. The driver gets a fantastic, almost 360-degree view of the road without any difficulty. Now, the A-pillar is not as obstructive as it is maybe on a Safari. It's much better here, and you like that as a driver. Now, when we took the Sierra for a handling test to the turbo track, it was quite clear that this setup is tuned more for comfort. When you take this one around corners, especially at high speeds, you will feel that it becomes sort of unsettled. There is a body roll that is evident, so the big dimensions, the height of this SUV do not work to its advantage when it comes to handling. And then ride quality, and that is something I don't really have too much to complain about. For whatever distance I've driven the car till now, I haven't really found too many faults with the way the setup behaves when it comes to suspension on this SUV. But Amaan also has to give us the take from the second row.
Sham said something earlier about the Sierra being set up for comfort, and believe me, I can feel that being seated in the back seat. First of all, this is certainly the most spacious rear seat here today. Be it knee room, be it leg room, be it foot space, be it headroom, this one beats all comers. Also, the seat itself is quite comfortable. The seat squab is long, so you have good under thigh support. If you need more knee room and you want to move the front passenger seat, you have the boss mode lever, which comes in quite handy. And to talk about ride quality for the rear seat passengers, I have to say I'm amazed by how settled this feels. I thought the Duster was comfortable, but so is the Sierra. Only bigger potholes can be felt at times, but other than that, if you are chauffeur driven or are traveling with 5 passengers all the time, this is definitely the rear seat you would enjoy spending time in the most.
The Sierra clearly has a Jekyll and Hyde kind of personality. In many ways, it is unpredictable, and many times that unpredictability comes as a pleasant surprise. The Sierra's turbo petrol engine and its second row give it much needed strength, while the new Argos platform may still need some enhancements in the future.
Well, yet another 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine that has been doing its duty on the Hyundai Creta, the same unit as the Seltos, and with the N-line, the character comes out even more because of the changes the brand has done with this particular car when it comes to both design as well as the suspension setup. For a couple of years now, the Hyundai Creta N-line has been a sort of benchmark when it comes to driving dynamics. It is also not a very heavy car. The curb weight is in control, which also directly translates to a responsive setup on this one. Not every car we have today also comes with a manual gearbox, especially with the turbo petrol engine, but the Creta N-line also gives you that option. So if you are a purist, you love enthusiasm and you love to drive, you will actually love that combination that comes in this SUV. It's difficult to find faults here. The acceleration is quick and brisk. The gear shifts are quick and the throws are short. Everything that you want as a driver. Steering response is also to the point. The feedback is something that you love and it is quite responsive. It is precise to the T. Where you want the car to go, the car will go exactly in that direction. But again, it is a turbo after all, and you still have to wait for that point for the turbo to kick in to get the maximum out of this engine. Dimensions are compact, not very big, not very tall. Taut handling on this SUV, take it around corners with great speeds, and this one inspires a lot of confidence. This car has been around for a few years now, but with its capabilities and dynamics is still right up there when it comes to giving competition to some of the new boys in the segment. And finally, after having driven all these SUVs back to back, it is only the Duster that maybe qualifies to get the better of the Creta when it comes to driving dynamics. Even in 2026, the Creta and the Creta N9 are doing a lot of things right and come across as well-rounded cars.
Frankly, it's the rear seat of the Creta where the age of this SUV I feel is finally starting to show. In terms of space, it is marginally better than the Duster, but I still feel taller folks will have a little bit of issue with the knee room on offer because they will practically be sitting with their knees flush against the front seat back. Width, I think, should be sufficient for 3 adults to squeeze in. For short distances, long journeys may not be ideal. The seat base isn't long enough, which means you are lacking under-thigh support at the back. And there is a prominent hump in the center, which means the middle passenger will not be as comfortable as they will be in the Sierra. And if you look at the SUVs that I've been sat in today, I'm pretty sure that if I had to experience a backseat ride, it would have to either be the Sierra or the Seltos. The Creta would definitely not be the first choice. Even in terms of ride quality, it is not uncomfortable at any point, but it is not quite as imperious as the Sierras.
All things considered, the Creta still feels relevant and in line with today's expectations due to its well-roundedness, and even today you just can't go wrong with this one. The N-line treatment is the icing on the cake. And then we come to safety. ADAS is available on all these SUVs. Barring the Creta, all 3 cars have a 5-star crash test rating from Bharat NCAP, which bodes well. When it comes to fuel efficiency, all 4 SUVs come with an idle start-stop system that helps boost figures in a small way over long distances. Overall, all of these will offer similar real-world fuel efficiency figures of 11 to 14 km per litre under mixed use with these turbo petrol engines. Looking at the prices of these top turbo variants, it is the Duster which is the most affordable, while the Creta is priced at 20 lakh rupees. The top spec Tata Sierra costs 21 lakh rupees, and the Kia Seltos is the most expensive car here, priced at over 21.5 lakh rupees. Standard warranty on all 4 SUVs is for 3 years, but the Sierra and the Duster restricted to 1 lakh kilometers, while on the Creta and Seltos it is unlimited. So finally, which of these 4 SUVs should you be putting your money on in 2026? The Creta changed the game when it arrived a decade ago, and even now it checks a lot of boxes, if not all of them. But with a new generation model in the works, you will miss out on some features if you buy the current Creta. Of the new entrants, the Sierra dominates the road like no other car here, while the Duster makes you feel the most involved as the driver. But both these SUVs will not fit all requirements in the most ideal way. The one contender that has come closest to doing that is the new Seltos. It is the right size, has enough interior space for 5 occupants, is well equipped and offers solid performance. Even if only by a small margin, the Seltos is the one to pick today.